Wow, it's always a joy to have this man here, Kingsley Sutton, the Reverend Kingsley Sutton.
Good morning.
It's good to have you, Kingsley.
Thank you, Rod.
We saw you last night with the Alpha course. The Alpha, I don't know if you guys know about Alpha. Alpha is the fundamental basic course on Christianity that was invented's probably the wrong word, created maybe, what, 20 years, many years ago?
Oh yeah, it's about 25 years
25
or so,
years ago in London, and it seeks to explore the concept of Christianity and of religion so that people can grow in their particular faith.
Yes, it's a very useful tool. I mean, it's about a 12-week course, 10 or 12-week course, and it's been put into so many different languages now right around the world. I think there's hardly a country in the world where they haven't used the Alpha course now at this stage, but it's just a way of helping people to engage with God in their local context.
We should tell people out there, because they're viewing us at the moment in Manhattan and in San Francisco, San Diego, in Dallas, and all over the place. They're in the Gulf.
Good evening.
Whatever it is. But if you seek out Alpha there if you want to find out more, because I describe myself as an optimistic agnostic, and my friends who I sometimes meet in Africa who are Christians and Christian ministers and priests, they say, no, Rowan, in Africa you're not an optimistic agnostic, you're more of a pessimistic Christian. The suggestion being that there are no sort of agnostics in a foxhole, so if you're in trouble in the middle of the bush, you're going to say your prayers.
I think they could be right.
But last night was the penultimate night. Next week's the end of it.
That's right.
And the course was held at a most extraordinary place, in Tesco's out the road. Why Tesco's?
Well, we sort of touched on that last night. I mean, last night we were looking at the role of the church and what is the church meant to be doing, and really we're meant to be getting out there into the community, sharing the good news that we've discovered and letting people know about that. So Tesco's very kindly have opened up their staff training room to the community, and when I heard that, my ears pricked up and thought,
you were in like a shot.
Let's give this a go, because Tesco's, it's not even a year on the premises, so we've done well to get in there from the word go.
Absolutely,
but it's been lovely I mean, they've allowed us to host it there. They cater for us as well, although we have paid, of course. But it's been a good place, I think. Good venue, a kind of neutral ground. I think that's really what it interested me.
And you're actually bringing, I think you alluded to it there, you're bringing the message out into the secular world. You're in there alongside the A3 batteries, the kettles and the iPads and all the rest of it.
Indeed. The real world, and that's what I like about Alpha, is it tries to keep things real. We're not so much into theological hocus pocus or anything like that. It has to be real in order to mean anything to me personally, and I'm sure that's for everyone else. So.
You said a remarkable thing last night when you recommended the book of James from the Bible. You said that the true definition of religion is to be found in James. What did you mean by that?
Well, the only definition of the word religion, if your viewers can look this up as well, of the actual word religion is given in James. There's no other place in the Bible where it uses the word religion and gives a description of it. And James's whole heart for the church was not that we would be fantastic at believing, but that we would be fantastic at actually getting out there and helping people. And the definition is this: looking after widows and orphans in their distress. That's what true religion is about, but sadly, as a church, I don't know, sometimes we haven't gone down that road. We're too self-interested or building our own little empires. But the true religion is serving people, looking after people. That's what we're trying to get back to.
Heard a wonderful, wonderful thing on the World Service this morning, way in the wee small hours as I was getting out of bed. It was a man in Orlando in Florida, and there's a sequel to this story. He had, for some reason, access to piles and piles and piles of socks. And these were new socks. He gave the socks out. He said, "Excuse me, may I give you, this is something you might be interested in." Well, look at what's going on here. Open lovely warm woolen socks in the middle of winter time.
I'm sure it was winter, not the middle of the summer in Florida, but anyway.
And there he was. No, it wasn't Orlando. What's the name of the place? It's the center belt of America where the hurricanes and the storms come up, all of that thing. But anyway, this man was giving these things out, and then he was giving out hundreds of thousands of them, and other people joined him. And the same story happened in New York, where a man called Malone,
that's right.
Gloves
Yes,
Malone,
that's right.
he was handing gloves out to folk who were bag people on the streets in the October snows of New York. And there it was happening. But this is what you're talking about.
That is true religion, according to that definition in James. Yes.
The Alpha course explored as well last week the notion of evil in the world. Does evil exist in the world as a real presence?
Oh, I think so. I'm sure your viewers will verify this as well. Just look at the latest news bulletin and you'll see that there's very much, very definitely an evil at work. You know, we can say it's our human nature, and yes, man's inhumanity to man, or woman's inhumanity to woman, whatever way you want to look at it. We do have this propensity to be evil. We don't have to teach our children to tell lies, you know, it's just seemingly part of us. But I think you'll discover that if you go looking, and I wouldn't really recommend this, but if you go looking, you'll see that the occult is very real, and whether it's Ouija boards or stuff like that, we're better off staying away from it, you know.
But is that sort of stuff, the occult and Ouija boards and the rest of it, is that a physical manifestation of an evil spirit in the world, of Satan in the world? Or is it just hocus pocus, smoke and mirrors?
Well, I wouldn't like to try and find out, to be honest, but from what I read and what I hear, and I mean, the Bible makes this very clear too. Not only is Satan at work in this world, but he has demons as well, which should do his work for him. Jesus said how about a kingdom divided against itself will fall, and he was describing the fact that, you know, Satan's empire, it's quite a strong wee network, not to be toyed with or messed around with. So I mean, I would say to your viewers, maybe it's a bit like radiation. We can't see it, but stay well clear of it, because you know if you stay in the presence of radiation, it's going to take you down. It's going to affect you physically, and I think it's probably true of those things. You know, I guess human nature is kind of curious, and you know, we like to look into these things. But the Bible it's there for our own good to tell us just stay clear of these things, because they're not good for us.
But the other thing, another way of looking at it, another thought on it, is a very simple thing: that with God, I fear no evil. With Jesus, I fear no evil. And I can walk through a tunnel of Ouija boards, believing in Jesus and saying the word Jesus, and they'll all melt before me.
Amen to that.
You know, so we have nothing to fear.
Well, that's true. You know, once the Lord is the center of our lives, and I mean, we've seen all the movies, the Dracula movies, the cross, whatever, but you know, there is something behind that. The name of Jesus is a very powerful name. We use it as a curse word, sadly, in our world today, certainly in Western culture, and probably shame on us for that.
Indeed.
Because it is the most wonderful name, and used in the right context, we have nothing to fear, because Jesus, according to Scripture, says that he who is within us, that is Jesus, the Spirit of Jesus, is greater than he who is in the world. So, yeah, that's why I don't go looking for evil.
No.
Let's just get on with doing the good work, looking after
widows or orphans. We beat evil through the good work.
We will, you know.
That's the way to do it.
You'll see, you know. Yeah.
I made a documentary with a colleague of yours, Canon Bill Meldrum.
Oh yes.
From East Belfast.
Yes.
And Bill was a Church of Ireland exorcist.
That's right.
And Bill was called to a house in Antrim, and we went with him, and we saw him carrying out the rite of exorcism in the house, and we filmed it. And we saw things. And one of the things we saw as Bill was doing that, a stone from the garden came through the wall, came through the window, landed on the ground in front of us. I couldn't make head nor tail of it. It didn't faze Bill. Bill just carried on with his work and did what he had to be doing. But it was real. It wasn't hocus pocus.
Well, that's it.
He was there for a purpose. These people in the house had been tortured by evil, you know. But the evil doesn't have to be the shouting, the loud, the angry poltergeist. The evil can be the smiling person beside you who's winding you into something. The way you get angry, the way one gets angry with people, that's evil. You know, the destruction of people by the enthusiasm of your words and your passion, it can be a wrong thing.
Wow, yes, we have to be careful with our words, that's for sure. But no, I wouldn't go looking for evil. And, you know, as I say, even as a Church of Ireland clergyman, I'm capable of doing wrong things as well, and I need to know God's grace and God's forgiveness. And it's only through Jesus. That's what gives me the victory against evil, even in my own life personally as well. I just look to Jesus for his help.
Well, that's the way forward, I believe. You've convinced me of this. I accept this.
Good.
I'm still I'm a very optimistic agnostic now, which is moving in the right direction. But looking to the Church of Ireland in Newry, you're a powerful presence, a respected presence in the community. You know, we have people, icons. You're one of them. John Kearney of Warren Point's another. You know, people who are our folk in the Dominican, the great people. You know, good priests of the cathedral there, doing what they have to do and do every day. But let's focus on your church. You have two churches that you're responsible. Maybe you have more that you're responsible for. You have St. Mary's in the heart of the town, and you have St. Patrick's, the Light on the Hill. That's your total responsibility?
Yes, those are the two parishes that I have. But I thank
you.
Two
separate parishes?
Two separate parishes that were brought together under my predecessor. So about 20 years they've been together. But thank you for being called an icon or something.
No, you are.
Have to be careful with that.
No, you are. You don't have to be careful.
To the other good
you just have to keep doing what you do and live up to it. You are an icon. People respect you and you give them encouragement. But the characteristics of the two parishes, traditionally what was Patrick's, traditionally what was Mary's, in terms of the makeup?
Part of the last night at the Alpha course is about trying to make things real, and my concern as a church leader is that very often we can get stuck in our kind of forms of religion. You can call it traditionalism or ritualism or whatever. And I don't want to knock those. There's a very important place for that, and people meet with God in that. But in today's culture, I think it's better if we can say, look, there's more than one way of reaching God. And in our two parishes, St. Mary's, St. Patrick's, I've kind of got two venues pretty close to each other here in Newry. And the plan was, well, look, instead of doing the same thing in both church venues on a Sunday morning, let's make them different. Let's go different ends of the spectrum, as it were. So in St. Mary's at 10 o'clock down beside the market here in Newry, it'll be a more traditional format, according to the Church of Ireland, morning prayer, Holy Communion from the prayer book, and we do that as well as we can. But then up in St. Patrick's in September of last year, we've sort of gone off on a tangent, you might say, into the more contemporary format, where we don't do things according to a prayer book. It's much more informal. I wouldn't robe, for example. There's a chance for people to be more involved in the service, whether it's leading intercession, doing the children's talks, or what have you. We've a live worship band, which helps us in the worship as well. And we're trying to see if that meets a need where people who can't relate to the sort of ritualized Christianity, that maybe if they come in through St. Patrick's doors, that they feel very much at their ease. We're just ourselves, and we come the way we are, and we hopefully are changed as we meet with God.
Essentially a younger audience.
Well, it has turned out that way at the moment, yes, because those who are older and who've grown up with traditional church, for them, they like that. So that's why a number of them have been going to St. Mary's now. They changed venue because that service attracts them.
Is it a big thing for your people who were traditional in Patrick's, to make the transference, or have they been able to do that with relative ease?
Not everyone, no, and it's been hard, because I've asked a lot of them,
Yeah, you have.
But within the Church of Ireland, we're very committed to our buildings. We tend to look after them well. We've a lot of emotional attachment to a building. And that's where we were confirmed or baptized, or funerals of loved ones have been there. And for folk who like the traditional service and who have liked that in St. Patrick's, it's been hard because a number of them have moved to St. Mary's, yes, but others have felt that for now they'll try worshipping somewhere else. But we hope they'll see that there's a reason behind all of this. I'm not out to upset people unnecessarily. No. We're just trying to make church relevant to today.
There is I hear the logic. I would be a traditionalist. I'm not wanting to go into If I go on the streets and I want to see a policeman, I want to see him in his uniform. If I see a minister, I want to see him in his uniform. So to speak, you're there. But I mean, that stands you aside. That if someone's going to jump off the end of the earth, they say, "Oh, you're a Christian man. Would you help me?" They know they have a point of contact. Yes. But I understand the logic of the responsibility of taking the whole thing in its entirety forward. And you must take all constituencies with you. I understand that. But I do think it is a hard call, and you've admitted that yourself, for people. Would you've lost many?
I don't know. I mean, we've been venturing into this as a kind of trial period, and we're going to assess that now over the next wee while over Easter. I hope we haven't lost people, because, you know, the church is bigger than St. Patrick's or St. Mary's, and they're still part of the body of Christ, and hopefully... you know, hopefully they can see that, you know, for me it has been a leadership call. Under God I have to lead as effectively, as best as I can, according to my conscience, as to the way God is guiding me. I hope that in years to come we will see that this has been the right way, because hopefully we'll see people, and if you're meeting God in a way that's relevant to them, that otherwise they wouldn't have. And
by your fruits you shall be known. If your church is packed to the rafters with your new constituents, then it's thumbs up.
Well, it'll be great, yes, but fruit takes a long time to grow, you know, and it's knowing, you know, having patience on that journey, bringing as many people with us as possible, and just allowing God's grace.
I don't think any of us. I don't think any of us have the right to respond angrily to leadership. We may disagree with it, but I think we have a responsibility to see the wider picture. Am I here for the bricks and mortar, or am I here for the message that I'm hearing? And I think the latter is the case. Yeah, you're here for the message you're hearing. And you become very introspective, as the eye of a fish in the well, when it looks up into the sky. And all it sees is the circle of the top of the well, can see nothing else, not to the left, not to the right. Yes, so people are dreadfully introspective in those situations. And let's hope they come through and it's all good.
I hope so. I mean, in a world which changes so much, and dear knows with the internet and everything, we have changed so much in the last 10 or 20 years. So people like to hold on to things that don't change just for comfort, and sometimes that's the church. And when the church starts changing, it's like, oh no, what else is going to change here, you know?
But I mean, it's an intergenerational thing as well, in its widest sense, what you're doing.
I think so. I think that's probably part of it too.
And if we could get the greater of intergenerational contact, that's got to be good.
Well, it's for the future, really, because if we're not reaching the younger generations, we don't have a future. So we've got to make the changes.
Good night.
As best we can.
Absolutely.
But as William Temple, we were quoting, if I just may say this, last night at the Alpha Course, we're talking about the church again, and William Temple, Archbishop, he was of Canterbury, who once said that the church is the only society in the world that exists for the benefit of its non-members.
It's again back to reaching out to the widows
and the
orphans.
Out, absolutely. You know, and I hope that whatever we do here in Newry, within St. Mary's or St. Patrick's, that we have the mindset that we're here for others, not just for ourselves,
very much so.
for what we like the fish looking out of the well, you know, that we can see, there's a bigger picture here.
Bigger picture.
Let's reach out to those around us.
Next week at St. Patrick's, it's the last of the Alpha Course this time. What are we talking about next week?
Well, it's primarily about healing. Does God heal today? And that's kind of looking at it as objectively as we can, but also there'll be an opportunity for people to be prayed with, because certainly the Christian point of view is that, well, Jesus taught us disciples to heal people and to, in faith, be praying for people. And healings can happen, so if we sort of make room for God, dare I put it like that, but sometimes we're quite narrow-minded, but if we make room for God, that we can see those miracles happen. So the thought would be that next week at Alpha, we're actually changing venue. We're going to go back up to St. Patrick's Church next week, and we're going to discuss all about healing, and then if people are feeling able for it, would like to do it, then we will pray for healing, either for the folk who are there as part of the Alpha Course, or even on behalf of others. You know, that's part of the thing too, is just praying for others.
I should maybe quietly apologize to you, because in my participation on the course, And I wanted to, we did a deal at the beginning.
You did. You've been very faithful.
And the deal was, I'll go to the Alpha course, you'll come in every Friday, and we'll shoot the breeze on the Alpha course on God. But I mean, I just sense that I wasn't as convinced of all the Bible stuff and all the rest of it. I was the burr under the saddle on occasions. And it's my sincere hope that I didn't overdo that element of it.
Not at all, no. I mean, we said right from the very word go, the logo for the Alpha course is a question mark, and it's meant to be a venue and a place where people can put their genuine questions and to the panel or to the group discussion or what have you. You've been a vital part of that. You've been able to say things which perhaps others in the room might have liked to have said, and you spoke it out and said it as it was. Keeping it real, which is what we were trying to do. Real, so thank you for participating in that.
It's done me the world of good. What it has done is, in real terms, it's underpinned my, if you like, my voyage. It's underpinned my modus vivendi, my way of doing things. And I don't need any church. I really don't. I need James. You gave him to me last night, and you know, I'm there with James. There's no doubt about it. I love the concept of that thing of loving your neighbour. If we had that, we've got civilization par excellence. There's no getting away from that at all. We're going to wind up now. You know, we've been talking for half an hour.
Oh my!
And we've done a very special thing for you here. We have now installed the clock hanging from the ceiling, so that every time, once we come to look at the clock and see what is the time, where do we look? We look up, and maybe we'll get some response there. Kingsley Sutton, thank you very, very much indeed. You'll be here next Friday till we find out.
If you would like to have me back,
very much so.
I'd be very pleased to come along.
So. But you're a good man, and thank you. And it's all good. We'll say farewell.